Hello, everyone. Welcome to the start of Season 2 of StarNotes, a Northern Star Media podcast. We are so excited to get back into the world of new media and new movies and new books and new everything. And today, I am joined by two amazing Northern Star staff. If you want to introduce yourselves.
I am Lucas Didier. I am the sports editor for fall of 2024.
And I'm Lucy Atkinson. I'm the opinion editor for fall of 2024.
Yes, and I'm Olivia. I'm our editor-in-chief for this fall semester. And today, we are talking about the recently released Deadpool movie. Mm-hmm. Now, I have not seen this movie. I've seen the Iron Man movies. That's about it. So I know nothing about this franchise. So, for me and for our viewers at home, can you guys just break down kind of the movie, the franchise, the relevant info?
All right. So I'm a little bit newer to the Deadpool game. So I've known the character for a while. I just this year watched all of them because I watched the other two leading up to this one. So basically Deadpool is the most R-rated superhero that Marvel has to offer. So it's very gory. There's a lot of swearing, a lot of adult content in a lot of ways. It's also a little weird because he will talk to the camera a lot. There's a lot of breaking the fourth wall and doing that kind of stuff. A lot of self-aware comedy kind of things. So he'll make jokes about other Marvel movies and other stuff, or things about the actors that are playing the characters and things like that. So it's very much its own thing in a lot of ways. I feel like it's hard to compare it to other stuff because it does a lot of things in a very unique way, I would say. And then this one was particularly interesting, and I liked it a lot because it deals with a lot of the movies that were made in, they call it the Fox universe, because it was made by 20th Century Fox, who made all these movies because they had the rights to them. So that's specifically Wolverine, is who's in the title, but then it's the X-Men and a bunch of other characters that pop in and out, and they make a lot of references to a lot of that stuff. So I really enjoyed it, but yeah, it's a very unique kind of movie. If you're not really invested in a lot of this Marvel stuff, I don't know how other people would feel about it, but I thought it was a lot of fun. But yeah, it's kind of a wild ride of a movie. So
yeah, Lucy, can you kind of break down what the plot of
the plot?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, like Lucas said, for people who have been watching Marvel for a long time, or maybe they grew up reading the comics, it was one of those movies that was super special because it included so much from a bunch of other references and movies and comics. So I would not trust me to give a completely accurate, perfect breakdown of the plot. But from what I got, and Lucas, pop in if I'm wrong.
I'm here for the fact checking of Lucy's breakdown.
Let me try and think. Deadpool. So there's these people who regulate timelines, regulate the concept of time and going back in time and going forward in time and different timelines. So if you tied your shoe in one timeline but you didn't in another timeline, that would be two separate timelines, if that kind of makes sense. Basically, what you do is going to be different in different timelines. Kind of like alternate realities, but according to my boyfriend, they're very different things, so I don't want to get that wrong. But Deadpool, the character, basically pissed off the timeline people and didn't do what they wanted him to do, and I'm totally forgetting what he did that was wrong. But he knew that he needed to go back and he needed to find a version of Wolverine from a timeline where Wolverine wasn't dead, because this guy Wolverine was dead in his timeline, as confusing as that is. Yeah. He needed to go find a version of Wolverine and bring it to his timeline to keep his timeline from being wiped from existence, and therefore to save all his family and friends and the people he loves. Because Deadpool's super sarcastic, but he's also super lovable, is kind of what's kind of funny about him. So he goes on this wild search to find Wolverine, or a version who will come with him, and they end up going on this crazy long adventure, trying to basically save their timelines. Or what Wolverine thought he was going to get out of the deal was he was going to get someone who could go back in time and fix his past, which is really traumatic and horrible. And so that's why they're working together. They go try and basically switch around time and fix things up for their individual timelines. And so they run into a lot of people from a bunch of different Marvel realities and timelines and all that jazz. and I don't know if I want to spoil the plot or not.
Don't spoil it.
So yeah, it's a cool little adventure.
Okay. And I know there are a lot of cameos in this film. Do you guys have like a favorite cameo from the movie?
Favorite is tough. It's weird. So like, I don't know if we call it a spoiler at this point. I think most people have probably seen them and that, so I'll just go ahead and assume that people, if you're listening to this talking about Deadpool movie, you've probably either seen it or seen something about it. The one that definitely caught me by surprise the most is there's a cameo by Elektra, played by Jennifer Garner, who I don't know what year it came out, but she was in the Daredevil movie, and I think they did a standalone Elektra movie like 20 years ago. And Daredevil's a very commonly made fun of movie. It's Ben Affleck as Daredevil, and it was not a very good movie, and so people kind of don't talk about it very much. And then she just kind of popped up out of nowhere, which was really interesting because I did not see that coming at all, especially because she's an actress that more people might know, and it's not like this is the only role she's done that people know her for or anything. So that one was definitely the one that caught me by the most surprise, because some of the other ones I anticipated a little bit more, but the other one, which is another big surprising one, is Chris Evans as the Human Torch, which if you don't know, so Chris Evans played Captain America in I don't even know how many Marvel movies at this point, but he also played the Human Torch in 2 Fantastic Four movies, again like early 2000s. So they pop him up and they like are setting it up for that he's Captain America, and Deadpool keeps going on about like how he's this leader that they need, and then he like does his Human Torch thing, and then he's like, wait, what? And it's like this big kind of shock moment that it's not only he's there and it's this big name actor that everyone knows, but that it's also not his more known Marvel role, which I thought was really funny. So I really like that they snuck that one in there, and I don't think anybody knew that ahead of time. Like some of them kind of got leaked, like, oh, these people are going to be in the movie. Mm-hmm. But that was one I never saw a single person even theorize that he might be in it, so that one was a lot of fun. And that's like one of the first ones that you really get that's, I think it's one of the first cameos that you even get in the movie at that point, and it was one that came totally out of left field, so I thought that was a lot of fun. But.
Yeah, that I think is the perfect example of how Deadpool versus Wolverine can be really confusing for a person who does not keep track of all the Marvel stuff, because I remember being in the theater with my boyfriend, this person who is like he knows a lot about the comics and the references, and I see Chris Evans, who in my head, yes, is Captain America, and I'm confused immediately, and he's just like giggling next to me and all excited and like tapping my hand like, Lucy, Lucy. And I was like, what? I thought Captain America's dead, but isn't he retired? Like, what's going on? But the movie's real good, too, about, like, making fun of how confusing that is. And, like, like Lucas said, breaking the fourth wall all the time about how there are all these different alternate realities. There's all these different timelines. There's all these different characters that you thought we were done with, but we're not. And so it was pretty fun and cool that way, especially to watch with someone who's really excited about it is pretty sweet.
Yeah, and I feel like the interconnectedness of all of the Marvel movies, universes, whatever, can be like a really big turnoff for people who haven't been following it for forever. Like me, like I'm not one of those people who grew up with it. I watched like Disney movies, Ice Age, Tarzan, Alice in Wonderland, like that. Like that's what I was doing in my spare time. And so, like, what would you say to people who want to watch the new Deadpool movie but haven't seen many of the other Marvel movies? Like, do you have to go through and like mine the entire universe? Can you watch them out of order? That kind of stuff.
So, are you saying specifically still to this Deadpool movie, like how it, or just Marvel movies in general?
Yes.
Okay. So Deadpool was a funny one because I had a friend of mine who is very into a lot of Marvel stuff. She's actually like more recently got into it, which is fun for me because she used to think it was all like nerdy and like, no, I don't want to watch this stuff. And now she's obsessed with it. But she's like done a total 180. And so she was asking me like, what do I need to know? And it was like, I almost don't want to tell you because then it like spoils that like, yeah, these are all the people that are in this movie, but also it's like in a lot of ways I feel like you don't actually have to watch a lot of stuff to enjoy it. You might not get all the jokes, and some of the the deep cuts and stuff like that. But I think they did a pretty good job of like establishing pretty clearly that like you can tell that these are cameos. You can tell they're from something, but they're able to do some fun stuff with them that you don't need context for. And there's some stuff like I'm not going to spoil it too much because we're not going all spoiler heavy. But one of the like cameos that's in it isn't actually a character that was in a movie. It was one that like was going to be in. It was an actor that was going to be in his own movie, but it never happened. So it's like if you didn't know that, you wouldn't know if he was actually in a movie or not. But it's like if you're one of those people that follows all the stuff, you know that was a thing, that this person was gonna be in a movie and wasn't. So it's still fun, but it's also like you're not necessarily missing anything if you haven't watched it because he wasn't in a movie.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of stuff like that where it's like you can tell that there's something more there that you're not getting, but the jokes aren't all just, oh, this thing that happened in another movie. And like the plot lines are maybe a little easier to understand if you've seen other stuff, but it's such a chaotic, wild, and fun movie that I think there's a lot of enjoyment to be had. As far as the Marvel universe as a whole, I think it really depends on the movie, but I think there's some that are really good at just standing alone as just really good movies. My best example is like Captain America Winter Soldier. I think it's just genuinely a great movie, and you don't have to like superheroes to like that movie. And it would be better to watch the first Captain America movie and maybe like the first Avengers movie, but I don't think you have to. And I think a lot of them do pretty good at that. It's helpful to watch them, but they kind of explain stuff as you go along. And that one friend I was talking about who did a whole 180 on Marvel stuff, pretty much the first two movies they watched were Infinity War and Endgame, which is probably the worst way to dive into Marvel's, the whole Marvel universe. But she loved them, and she went back and she watched all of them. So it's like, even with that, there might be some stuff you're a little lost on, but, I think if you're going into it expecting a fun movie with a lot of, cool action sequences and expecting to laugh and expecting to relate to the characters and find characters you like, I think you can still watch them without all the context. And some of the stuff that they're doing now is multiverse related, which gets really complicated, but also allows them to kind of tell a story on the side that isn't necessarily going to connect to everything. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's kind of it's like its own realm of movie, because there's like, I don't even know if there's like 30 now that are all tied together, and then you have these other Fox movies that were made before those that add another dozen movies. But yeah, it's complicated, but at the same time, I think you can go into it and have a good time if you like the content. So
yeah, I agree with that. As a person who is not super good at retaining like Marvel fun facts, actually, like Lucas said earlier, Deadpool's interesting because it kind of brings back some of those X-Men storylines and ideas, and actually to prepare Marvel uneducated me for watching Deadpool Wolverine, we watched like almost every single X-Men movie like in the weeks coming up to the movie, and that was a really fun experience, and I'm glad we did it. But to be completely honest, I think I understood Deadpool Wolverine about as much as I would have understood it without watching any of those movies, which is not very well, just because I'm not good at retaining that information. I'm not that kind of person. And hats off to you if you are. That's super cool, and I think that's pretty cool. But I still really enjoyed the movie. So even if you don't know that much and you just want to go see a fun movie, you might enjoy it just for the humor, for the action adventure, just for the characters and the way they talk, even if you don't get every that's okay. You can always, look up a synopsis later and read about all the Easter eggs and go, ooh, I get it now, and that's always kind of a fun experience too. But yeah, I think it was still quite fun. The whole the first minute is 5 minutes is like a scene of Bye Bye Bye, that song, of them dancing to that song, and so it's just funny and goofy. And if that's what you're in the mood for, then you'll still enjoy it. Yeah,
and while we're on the topic of Marvel news, I'm not sure how recent it's going to be when this podcast comes out, but as of the recording day, it's relatively recent. They had some type of conference thing, and Robert Downey Jr. was there, and they were announcing some new movie, and out comes Robert Downey Jr. And everyone was like, whoa, because, like, he had something crazy happen. Spoiler, he dies, right?
Yes.
And now he's coming back and, like, all of that. So, like, what does that mean for the MCU?
So I'm going to
Lucas,
break this
take it
down.
away.
I did not know you were as much of a nerd about this as you are.
I love Marvel stuff.
Yeah, this is crazy.
good.
I have a bunch of Marvel T-shirts. You'll probably see me
Do you
wear
really?
throughout the semester. Oh yeah.
Good.
In my dorm, I had a couple framed paintings that my fiance made that were like Captain America's shield and like a Mjolnir
that's so
hammer
neat.
and like all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I love this stuff.
Wow.
I used to love going to the movies and seeing them as they came out. So the Robert Downey Jr. stuff, I'm prepared for this.
Great. Good, because I'm not.
Yeah. So if you're, confused about the history of him in the MCU, so he was Iron Man. He was in the first Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. So the first one was Iron Man, which was, he was the lead in. And then he kind of became like the focal character in the MCU in a lot of ways. And like Spider-Man is connected to him, and he's one of the first people in the Avengers, and a lot of villains have a connection to him. And so he was this really big character. And then he dies in Endgame, which, I mean, spoilers, but if you haven't seen Endgame at this point, you're probably not going to anytime soon. You probably know that anyway. Yeah, so and that was a really big moment. It's very sad, and it's an emotional time in the MCU, and they did a whole send-off for him, and it's great. So now the news is at, I think it was Comic-Con that it's from. I don't follow the convention stuff, so I could be wrong on that.
I don't either.
Maybe it's technically a different name. They revealed that they're going to have Doctor Doom come to the MCU, which Doctor Doom, I'm not a huge comic book guy, but I do know that Doctor Doom is like maybe the biggest, most famous like Marvel villain who's, at the front of a lot of huge storylines. He's like a Fantastic Four villain, but he's also just like a huge level Marvel villain, one of the most famous ones there is. And so they're kind of, with the next Avengers movies, they're moving into a Doctor Doom storyline. So like instead of Thanos being the big bad guy, it's him. It was supposed to be another villain, and there's some problems because an actor did some stuff that they kind of pushed him to the side. I don't know all the details of that. Other people might know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so they kind of switched gears, and they're like, we're going to do Doctor Doom. And so they reveal this whole thing, and they have a guy up there in a mask with all these like henchmen kind of things. And he took off the mask, and it was Robert Downey Jr., which was a very big surprise because he was Iron Man, and now he's dead, so it's weird. So I am very interested to see what they're going to do. Some people think it'll be like an alternate universe Iron Man character who turns into Doctor Doom. I don't necessarily think that's what they're doing. I think it might just be a totally separate character. But the interesting thing is, like, Doctor Doom is a character that mostly has a mask because it's supposed to be like he has like a deformed face, and he has this mask that he wears, and like, so they might be able to do it where you hardly see his face, and when you do, it's not clear that it's him. So maybe they're just thinking, he's just a really good actor and people like him, so they'd like to see him in a role. Or maybe it'll be, some kind of Iron Man connection. But yeah, that's kind of, to give you some more context, that's what's happening. It's a very big character. And some people don't really like it. Some people think it's just a cheap, like, try to get people to come to the movie kind of thing, and that it's a bad choice. I think it's interesting, if nothing else. I'm kind of excited just to see what that even looks like. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was a very big deal. And going back to the cameos I was talking about, it was also funny to me because that news broke like right around the time Deadpool came out. And then you also had Chris Evans popping up in Deadpool out of nowhere. So like Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. are kind of like the staples, like two biggest, actors in the MCU. And they've both been out for like 5 years, and now they both like popped up in Marvel news again for the first time in a long time. So for me, that was a lot of fun because I love those guys and love seeing them in the movies. But yeah, it's a little bit more context what you're getting. It's causing quite a stir because Doctor Doom is a very loved character in Marvel comic books, and RDJ is a very loved actor in the Marvel universe, but not everyone wants to see them together. So I'll be curious to see how they do that. But if that all makes sense, that's the...
I mean,
as
much as Marvel makes sense.
Helpful.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I have zero information about that. I had seen that was a thing, and I think I thought I knew what Olivia was saying, but what I thought was something about Red Hulk, which
I also feel like
obviously is not what we were talking about.
No.
Yeah.
Different guy.
Yeah, the Red Hulk thing, if you don't mind me interjecting.
Yes, please.
So, my understanding is the next Captain America movie, which won't be Chris Evans' Captain America. It'll
Why?
be...
What? I love Chris Evans.
He's dead.
Yeah.
Why is he dead?
No, not
Well,
Chris
he's not
Evans.
dead.
Captain America's dead.
Why is he
It's
dead?
a whole... Well, he's not dead. It's a whole thing. If you don't...
I'm
I'm not going to complicate it any more than you have to. What you need to know is that he's out of the picture in the MCU for other reasons, and he's passed on the Captain America name
To like some other random dude.
to a... Well,
He's
it's
a
like
nice
it's a
guy.
close friend of his that he's fought alongside for a long time. So
Okay.
it's Anthony Mackie is the actor, if you're familiar with that. But so he's like the new Captain America, and a villain in this movie is Red Hulk, which from my remembrance is it's like the Hulk, but instead of like getting angry, when he gets angry he doesn't get bigger, he gets like hotter, like his temperature like rises, and he has like fire and stuff like that, and it's kind of wild. But he's being played by Harrison Ford,
I love Harrison
which
Ford.
is a big thing. So they're doing that. So he's kind of taking the place of a character that the name is like General Ross, who was in MCU stuff, but the actor who played him passed away, I think, a year or two ago. So he's like coming in and replacing that character, and so Harrison Ford is going to be that character who turns into the Red Hulk, and it's a thing. People have been kind of speculating for years if the Red Hulk would show up and that character be used. And then when the actor had passed, it was kind of like, well, are they going to do away with that or whatever? But no, they actually have Harrison Ford doing it, which I think is really interesting.
I love Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I do too. So I think it'll be interesting to see. And it's a largely like, I mean, it'll be a lot of CGI. So I don't know like how exactly that'll be handled in that, because I know he's getting a lot older and that. But yeah, Harrison Ford is making his way to MCU, which is wild to imagine. But I mean, at this point, everyone kind of is. So everyone at one point or another will be.
Yeah.
We'll have Glenn Powell in there soon enough, and we'll have him join.
Yeah.
I have a question. Are there any other color,
It's just red and
or is it just red and green? Can we expect a purple Hulk?
I don't know. I mean, the only ones I know of are Hulk and Red Hulk. There are other versions of like there's She-Hulk, and they did a show with that.
I heard about that. Yeah.
And there's kind of other like versions of the regular Hulk too, where some people talk about like World Breaker Hulk is one of them, which is like I'm not a Hulk expert, so I don't know exactly the differences. But then
Hulk expert.
in Endgame, they also did the kind of Professor Hulk storyline, which is like he's kind of halfway between the Hulk and a man, so he like can talk and act normal, but he's bigger and stronger while he's doing it. And so there's stuff like that. But as far as colors, I think it's just green and red as far as I know.
Okay.
But I don't know. Maybe they'll keep it going. Maybe they'll just ride this train.
Yeah, a really happy yellow Hulk.
Yeah, maybe they'll just keep finding some other big name actors and rolling them out with new colors.
They should. I would watch those. Just like the Hulk color universe. I'd watch
Reggie
that.
Biv of Hulks. Yeah.
They could even do like a whole like, you know how in the first Avengers movie they have that like where they have all 6 of them in a circle. It's like a really famous shot.
Yeah.
You've probably seen a picture.
I
of
know.
it.
Probably.
I just don't know what I'm talking about. But they could do that, but it's just a different color Hulk for all of them.
It's so funny. There was a brief period of time where I thought, okay, this is stupid, like I know it, but I'm saying it anyway. So where I thought that like Red Hulk was like Mountain Dew Red, because like normal Hulk is green, Mountain Dew is green, and so Red Hulk is red, and so is Mountain Dew Red.
There's a red Mountain Dew?
Right?
Yeah, it's Mountain Dew Code Red.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
And I don't know why. I always thought he just like really liked Mountain Dew Code Red as a kid. I was like, like this seems right. And
He just drinks too much of it, like flamingos and shrimp.
Yeah, and I'm like
Okay.
so disappointed that's not what happens.
Maybe they're gonna change the lore. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the plan. Maybe
Yeah.
it's a really hardcore product placement where he's just gonna chug Code Red all the time.
Love it. Marvel, if you're listening, I think it'd be a great addition.
And they can go with our multicolored Hulk thing. I mean, Mountain Dew has like 10 different flavors.
Yeah,
right? That can be the thing. They can have this huge Mountain Dew sponsorship.
They can just the whole thing.
We could be in the midst of the Mountain Dew Hulk era of the MCU. We don't
That'd
even
be
know it.
crazy. Yeah. Well, as we get close to wrapping up here, we're going to try and make this NIU. So if you're an NIU student and you like Marvel MCU type things, what can you do on or around campus?
I think, towards the end of the year?
I think that is an anime thing. You could.
Never
There
mind.
are
They do have
film
an anime
classes.
That's true. Yeah. They
There's,
do have
I
film
mean,
classes.
Marvel's a lot of film. I think there's a comic book store not far from campus
There
at all.
That is true. Yeah.
Just
there
it's
is.
near Cast Iron.
It's cute. Yeah.
There's probably some type of Marvel club. I wouldn't be surprised.
There
Or if not, you can make one.
Yeah,
Make one.
you can make your own
You know
club.
how many people would love to go to that?
Oh,
Yeah, you'd have a lot of support, even just
Oh,
to
yeah.
like sit and talk about it.
Yeah.
I feel like
Watch
Yeah.
parties, comic book reading
Yeah.
clubs, like a book club but for comic books.
that'd be great.
That'd
And
be
movies.
cute. Yeah.
Like, we're watching the first 30 minutes, then we're gonna come talk about it.
That's
Yeah.
It's honestly a great idea if nobody's done that. I love
Dude.
the idea of it being a book club, but it's just like people come dressed in Marvel costumes
Yeah.
and read comic books. It's kind of awesome.
That would
That'd
be
be
cute.
so much
They
fun.
annotate everything.
That'd be
Get
so
your highlighters and sticky tabs out, but for comic book.
That'd be so great.
I guess you have to start it now, Olivia.
I do not.
the president
You
of
can
that.
start it. You
Lucas.
can start it. You out there.
That's
We are back.
Yes.
This is a new semester. This is a new year. New year, new you. Go make a club.
This is true.
If you want Marvel Club, make that. And if you want more information on making clubs in our back to school print edition that is on the newsstands right now, you can go and you can read a story by one of our lovely opinion columnists
Yeah.
and learn more.
Yeah.
And for more content like this and not like this, you can go to northernstar.info. You can find anything from news to sports to opinions to different podcasts. So thank you, Lucy and Lucas, for joining me. Have a great week, Huskies.